Mic'd up.
Highlights from Lowlifes. Highlights from Lowlifes.
Good evening once again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Highlights from Lowlife show here on the International Mic'd Up Network. We are a bunch of bozos who played baseball together. We did video conference happy hours like so many people did during COVID, but we turned it into these top 5 things, and now it seemed amusing enough for us to continue to try to do it in the podcast platform because when we really broke it down and analyzed it, we were the last 4 people in America not to have a podcast. So here we are now, ready to go, podcasting the hell out of this. We have a fun topic tonight. It's the top 5 baseball players who did something maybe more significant outside of the game of baseball than they actually did in the game. We've done a similar topic about appearances in pop culture, but we're really drilling down this time because we're desperate for topics. So anyway, that kind of where we're at. I am your host, Robbie, tonight, joined by Rob Weber, Jeff Jones, and clip-on Marty Brown. So with all that said, I feel like it's best to just get into the show and not worry so much about us anymore. So let's dive right into our topic, and I'll turn it over to Jeff Jones to start us off.
All right, before we get started, I'd like to wish our fearless leader and co-host Rob Weber a very happy birthday. Happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you.
You look pretty good for 70. You really do.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I would have said 75 easy.
Tonight's episode is sponsored by Geritol.
All right, my number 5 is an actor. But before he became an actor, he was a pitcher at Rutgers. And he was pretty good, and he got drafted by the Braves. And he got in about 5 years in the minor leagues with a couple of different organizations. Got to Double-A, had a couple of pretty good seasons, got nominated for Minor League Player of the Year a couple times. And then just kind of fizzled out after a few years. Decided to try his chops at acting. His name is Scott Patterson. He's had roles in Will and Grace and 90210, but he's most famous for playing Luke, the diner owner on Gilmore Girls.
All right.
And my understanding is, if I ever saw the movies, he was in all the Saw movies as well, which he's pretty well known for.
So Jeff, if I'm thinking right, he was in the baseball movie.
The Little Big League.
Yeah, where the kid was the owner of the team.
Yeah.
He played one of the Minnesota Twins.
Correct.
Okay, got it. All right.
Got to use his former glory in that movie. So that's my number 5, Scott Patterson. I'm going to throw it to Birthday Boy.
All right. Let's dive into politics, everybody's favorite topic.
You're going to take one of mine right out the gate.
That's right, damn it. So Jim Bunning, former Phillies and Tigers pitcher, is hey, sorry, man. I'll text you some other pics.
Happy birthday to you, Paul.
So Jim Bunning was a Hall of Fame pitcher for the Tigers and Phillies, and then went on to become a member of Congress. First, he was a member of the House for the state of Kentucky, and eventually became the senator for the state. So he is currently the only member of both the Hall of Fame and as a member of Congress. He played ball from, I think, 56 to 71. And then he was in Congress from the mid 80s into the early 2000s. He passed away a couple years ago at 85 years old, but
And
quite the
he's
career.
and
Yeah.
he's still on the Congress.
Yeah, doing better today than about 80% of them.
That's right. That's right. I actually, Jeff, I think he ended his reign in Congress at about age 75, which was probably 10 years too long. But you
God,
know,
he was just a
Yep.
rookie compared to some of those guys.
I know.
I will say
All right.
the thing I had for him too was that he was a Republican, but he was like equally liked and respected on both sides, both
Yeah.
parties.
Yeah,
He was
what's that like?
I don't know. That happened like 20, 30 years ago. It doesn't happen now.
Well, it's not like his terms were not without scandal, Rob. He
I didn't say scandal free. I just said he was
yeah.
equally well liked.
He did he had a little bit of a gaffe that he had to publicly apologize for. His opponent one year, he came out in an interview and said that his opponent looked like Saddam Hussein. And maybe he did. I'm not sure what that would have to do with anything, but there was so much pressure for him to apologize, and he barely won that election after that, even though he had 5 times the money in the coffer for um, uh, his campaign. So he put his foot in it. So
Wait, people held somebody accountable for their actions while a
yeah, that
member
was
of
back in a
Congress?
different
Yeah.
time.
Imagine.
Huh.
All right, Marty.
My number 5 was the 36th round draft pick of the St. Louis Cardinals back in 2016. But he had it in his college career. He was 10-1 in his senior year at Bellevue University, which is in Nebraska. See, here's my Nebraska contact. Had a 2.43 ERA, and he was on the 2016 All League tournament for NAIA in 2016. So he was quite a pitcher. Drafted, I said, by the Cardinals, and in 2016 and 2017, pitched 40 games for the Peoria Chiefs of the Class A League. Last season 3-0 with a 1.60 ERA as a great relief pitcher. He's currently working for a air conditioning and heating company. Runs a great counter at the my favorite coffee shop here in town, and who's and also engaged to a beautiful lady who runs the cafeteria, and he's a good friend of mine. His name is Leland Tilley, and since you said that people that do great things outside of baseball, he runs a great counter on Sunday mornings where I get my breakfast. So he's number 5 pick on my list. His name is Leland Tilley. And also the fact that now today, when this comes out on YouTube, we got another viewer. So there you go.
Way to bring it home, Marty.
Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
Right. My number 5. Well, Rob started with the politics, so I'm gonna stay in that vein for a second. This gentleman had a relatively distinguished career, like 275 home runs, I think, in his career. Pretty good hitter, RBI guy, decent outfielder. He played for the Yankees and Braves and Blue Jays amongst other teams that shall remain unnamed. But following his career, he was elected the mayor of San Cristobal in the Dominican Republic, like the third largest city, I think, in the Dominican. And he has been the mayor since 2007. So he continues to get reelected and seems to be doing a very good job in one of the few towns that can actually draw tourists to that country. And that would be Raul Mondesi.
Ooh.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he seems to be well liked and has done great things for the Dominican. And yeah, so there you go. I thought that was kind of out of the ordinary.
Very nice.
All right. Well, that finishes up our first round. So we'll roll into round 4. I'm gonna flip it over to Marty to start this one. Let's
Okay.
Before you start, Marty,
Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Marty, I think you got an exclusive on that one.
the next guy is going to be Clem Johnson, the guy who pumps gas for Marty at the full service gas station.
there's still full service gas stations.
Hey, welcome to Reno. Yeah, again, you gotta have to take in the whole air of things. We got new viewers. We're gonna expand it. Where's this called? Yeah, okay. Well, I heard about this guy before, and I digging into it. This gentleman had quite a history. Originally signed with the Yankees in 1953. Had quite a minor league career. And a funny thing about diving into these people is the minor leagues teams that they played with. And I'll bring this up later with some other people, but the Boise Yankees and the Class C Pioneer League, and some of these old leagues are just I really enjoy the history of some of these old leagues and some of these obscure places where he played. But he was released when he got injured, when he was hurt, and wind up signing with in the Negro leagues with the Louisville Clippers. Was traded to the Birmingham Black Barons. This is true. I looked it up twice for a bus. He was traded for a bus. Was drafted the team bus. He was traded, and he was the other people in the trade, but the bus wasn't part of the trade.
All right.
Drafted into the Army in 1956. Had a short time with the Reds after he got out of the Army. Who is this guy? You had to heard of Charlie Pride, the great Hall of Fame country singer. And even in gosh, I had the name of the gentleman who wrote the book. He was the umpire in the Negro Leagues. I have
Bob
the book.
Motley.
Bob Motley brought up. Thank you. Brought him up about this guy who was on the bus who would entertain everybody for hours. That was Charlie Pride. So Charlie Pride is my number 4 pick. Jeff, go ahead.
Very nice. He was going to be on my list somewhere, so good choice. And I did have the bus as part of my commentary as well. So yes, traded for a bus.
Traded for a bus.
So my number 4 was drafted out of Hollywood High School.
Oh, I know.
At 17 by the Phillies. He bounced around the minor leagues for a couple years. Didn't go so well. I think his highest batting average was in the 220s. Decided to go do the acting thing. Had a couple acting jobs, but got his most famous of his career as saying things like, "The password is..." Game show host Bert Convy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Drafted 1952. Yeah.
Yes.
Which makes it how old this guy was.
Yeah. Had a bunch of bit parts here and there, but yeah, that's where he got his fame, is from all of his game shows. Over to you, Robbie.
All right, I got a bunch of ways to go, but I'm going to go with the. This is an oddball one. In the late 50s, I guess it's actually early 60s, in the San Francisco Giants, there was a player on the team who happened to very much look like, he wasn't a great player, by the way, but he absolutely was a dead ringer for Willie Mays. And so Carl Bowles was put in the unenviable position of being the first guy off the bus everywhere. so that the crowd would mob Carl, and then the rest of the team, including Willie, could make their way into the hotel. They could make their way through the airport, whatever it was. Carl Bowles was fed like chum to a shark in every stop at every stadium. And so Carl Bowles, best known as a Willie Mays impersonator, that's my number 4.
Nice.
And I have one of his baseball cards. I should have dug it out for tonight. He is absolutely dead ringer in the face for Willie Mays. It's not even close. It's hilarious.
What was his era? When did he play?
Early 60s for the Giants.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Was
But
he
that
an
was his
outfield-
job. Get off the bus first. Protect Willie.
That's a good
All right,
one.
birthday boy.
All right. So there's a famous picture from the Yankees in the 50s of Yogi Berra sitting on in the dugout reading a comic book next to third baseman Bobby Brown, who was reading medical journals. Bobby Brown, upon retiring from baseball, became a cardiologist, one of the leading cardiologists in the United States. He worked as a cardiologist for years, retired, and then became the president of the American League. So, yes, Yogi had said that he felt that Bobby was one of the most intelligent guys that he'd ever met before. That a lot of the words that were coming out of Bobby's mouth were words that he did not understand. So he must be smart. But yes, very classy guy. Folks looked up to him, and they respected him, and I think that's why he got the job as the American League president, because folks felt he would be fair in all his decisions. So that's my number 4 pick.
All right. Well, heck, that puts us in an awkward position of going into a segment that I'm going to have to introduce myself tonight for apparently because I started talking right away, and that is the segment "What You Drinking." As always, we here on the Highlights from Lowlife show are sponsored by our good friends at Almanac Brewing in Alameda, California, one of America's leading craft beer producers. And we are all drinking different beers from Almanac. I have gone back to the Porchlight Lager because
It's been disproven. It's been
Oh.
disproven.
I have to do it. No, Jay, see, okay, for the record, I always say, like a moth to a light,
Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
drawn to this beer. We had a caller last week said, like a moth to a flame, which is
Now,
completely burning out.
To be fair, for years I have heard the phrase "like a moth to a flame."
Yeah, you guys got to run
I've
in better
heard that for
company.
years. So don't blame JC. That's out there.
You know that you leave your porch light on in a summer night and there's moths all over the damn thing. And just like that, I'm drawn to this beer, the Porchlight Lager. Refreshing, flavorful, and tasty and easy to drink. What are you drinking? Wait, let me guess. Jeff?
Oh no!
Oh my God, that can
Oh,
is
no.
rising on its own.
Is there any surprise? True Kolsch, as usual. Marty,
Yes.
True Kolsch.
Oh yes, right here. I got-
See?
yeah.
Called
Geez, I'd really like to have a True Kolsch.
Well, here. Why don't you just
I have been burdened with another case of the strawberry sour Nova. Again, I enjoy the beer, but I would like a variety. Rob,
Yeah, if you're home Saturday, I'll drop some new stuff by. If that'll work for you.
as we said last week, this is the best of the sours that I've had so far from Almanac. It looks like there's 5 or 6 out on the market right now, but the strawberry is the latest. So give it a try. Those of you who like the sour beers. All right.
Sour beers are very popular with certain people. But anyway, well, once again, thanks to Almanac Brewing. We're all drinking good stuff. Their Love Hazy IPA is available pretty much everywhere, and then all these other flavors. Ask your favorite retailer to bring it in. They'll carry it for you because why wouldn't they? Anyway, if you're in Alameda, stop by the brewery. They will take pity upon you. All right, that moves us to round 3. Rob, who's going to start?
Well, let's see. How about you?
Fair
Robbie?
enough.
Mhm.
I'm going to take this one off the board. I'm pretty sure it's on everybody's list. This guy, well-known tough guy in Hollywood, big-time actor. I'm a big fan of westerns. So The Rifleman was one of the great TV series of my childhood, watching reruns of that, and one of the great. He was in Airplane 2, as a matter of fact, in the Lloyd Bridges role. But he started out as a Dodger outfielder, and that would be Chuck Connors.
Brooklyn Dodger.
Brooklyn Dodgers, yes,
Brooklyn
correct.
Dodger.
Brooklyn Dodgers. But went on to become one of Hollywood's great tough guys. Chuck Connors, good actor.
Yep.
Bad
Rob,
team. Yes,
what did he do before he played for the Dodgers?
he played in the minor leagues.
No.
No, that's
Hey.
true.
He did. Right.
So
Rochester
what did he do
Royals.
before the minor leagues?
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
He went to
Yeah.
elementary school, junior high,
I
high school.
hate these trick questions.
He played for the Boston Celtics from 1946 to 48.
I forgot about
Wow.
that.
That's a heck of a career.
And he
Dang.
played. I think he played at the same time Gene Conley, the pitcher for the Braves, played for the and then played for the Celtics too.
Huh.
He just can't hold a job, can he? Was a baseball player, basketball.
Nobody wants to keep him around.
Yeah,
Sidebar: I think Gene Conley's baseball manager said he should stick to basketball, and Red Auerbach for the Celtics said Gene ought to stick to baseball. All right, Marty, why don't you go next?
Okay. I think I'm going to pull something else off, everybody. We'll wait for that later. When playing baseball in college at North Carolina State, he had a 306 average. That's pretty good. That's pretty. We'll have him drafted by the Rockies in the 4th round in 2010. And again, I mentioned before that some of these creative names that come out with the minor league towns. He played with the Tri-City Dust Devils. Had 230 average, but had problems with getting power numbers and things like that. So he was in spring training with the Rockies in 2011, but had hit just 228 that spring. So he decided to quit baseball and go back to some college eligibility. But instead of North Carolina State, he went to Wisconsin, won the Rose Bowl, and turns out to be nothing less than Super Bowl MVP Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So he had a blossoming baseball career in the minor leagues, but one of the many gifted dual sport athletes decided to go with football, and I think he's now not so hot, but I think he did pretty good for himself. I think he made the right choice.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's my number 3 pick.
Nice job.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank
Yeah.
you. Webby.
All right. So on a prior show, I made fun of this guy because he, in my opinion,
Me?
no, not you.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the first.
I made this guy, in my opinion, was one of the worst announcers I've ever heard before. But it was entertaining to listen to him because the malaprops as he was announcing were so bad. It's so funny. So I mentioned Jerry Coleman, but Jerry Coleman, while he was a decent baseball player, was a very decorated military hero. So I'm reading here. He served as a Marine Corps pilot in World War II, 57 missions in World War II, and then in Korea, another 63 missions. He received 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses and 13 air medals for his service in combat.
Wow.
He's the only major leaguer to serve in combat for both World War II and Korea. And he retired as lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps. Went back, played some more baseball, and then started doing some announcing. And then I think I mentioned to you guys he had the failed term a few days as a manager of the Padres, and it quickly figured out that was a terrible idea. But Jerry Coleman, decorated war hero.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic. Thank, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Jeff,
Yep.
you still have to go this round. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
So everybody's talking about choosing things that'll be on everybody's list. I have a feeling this one might be on Marty's list. Sorry, Marty. This was also a two-sport college athlete. He was drafted out of high school to play baseball, and he decided to go to college instead. Played very well in both those sports, baseball and football. Got drafted again in baseball ahead of Tony Gwynn. Played a little bit in the minors, then got drafted in football and decided, that's where I'm going. His name was John Elway.
Anyway, yeah. Yeah.
John Elway was drafted in baseball ahead of Tony Gwynn. He must have been pretty good as a baseball player.
Yeah. He was outfielder and a pitcher. So he would, so he was very adaptable.
There was the one quote, there's a Yankee scout who said, if he would have stuck it out, the sky was the limit in baseball for him. Not bad, considering he's a Hall of Fame football player.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Hey, before sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Your thought. I was going to say, before we turn the corner and go to number 2, we did get a what you drinking call.
Oh, great.
Hey guys, what am I drinking? Well, I wish it were an Almanac Hazy IPA. Love IPA. But no can do. Can't find it at a couple of stores I looked at here in the biggest little city. So I've gone with local brew, the Wolfpack Ale. I guess you might call it the official brew of the Nevada Reno Wolfpack. It's good, but it's no Almanac.
Are you hiding Big Juicy in the other room there, Marty?
Nah, he has better things to do this evening.
Okay.
Which just don't tell his wife. Just okay.
All right. Well, we're going to start round 2 then. Jeff, who you sending it off to?
Marty.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead, Marty.
All right.
And we'll be right back after this.
Started off as a catcher at the age of 18 in 1971 in the Class A Orangeburg Cardinals. Wasn't much of a hitter. Only had 250 for the average in 1973. So we decided to branch out to some other sport. And he had to earn his dues. To stand out, you need a nickname. So he was the Spider. And even that didn't work. Well, especially if you want to go into a sport like wrestling with the name of Randy Boffle, doesn't quite cut it. So he had to change his name. He had to change his profile, and he became the Macho Man Randy Savage. It was signed with McMahon back in 1985, and turned out to be a great wrestler and did all this stuff. And I guess he did great things. But I was always more interested in looking at his partner Elizabeth than him. But but we'll leave that. We'll leave that behind. But well, thank you very much. But the Macho Man Randy Savage was a catcher in the minor leagues back in the early 70s. So I think he made the right choice, especially hanging out with Elizabeth, I guess. I don't know. Jeff.
All right. This one's probably on a bunch of people's lists, but I got to go with the easy one. He had a full career as a baseball player, but then made it even bigger as an announcer and even bigger as an actor, especially in one role. Harry Doyle. We all knew who I'm talking about.
Yep.
Bob Euchre.
Yep.
Somebody on this list, somebody had to say him tonight. There's no way around it. But I think he was even better as the dad in Mr. Belvedere. I think that's his most famous role.
Well-meaning buffoon is kind of right up his alley.
Yes.
Oh, so, I mean, I'm showing my age, but on his appearances on the Carson show,
Oh,
he
yes.
would just come. He would
Yeah.
just bust up everybody with
with
his
self-deprecating
crazy,
humor.
safety lines, and I think it's true that he made them reshoot the team picture with the St. Louis Cardinals because he was holding hands with Bob Gibson.
They didn't reshoot it. It went out that way.
Oh, they did. They did.
Yeah, it went out that way. Nobody
got
caught it
fined after the fact.
Yeah.
That's the amazing part. It was Bob, Bob Gibson.
I know everybody in this group has seen it, but anybody watching who has not seen it, go check out his Hall of Fame speech.
Oh,
it is funniest 20 minutes you will ever hear. It is hysterical. I mean, he has all the former Hall of Famers sitting behind him, just tears rolling down their faces, laughing so hard.
Yeah.
I think I took that off of Robbie's list. So Robbie,
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna go to you.
That's all right. Yeah, that was definitely probably my number one here. But so I'm going to slide this one in. To one generation of Americans, he was the Yankee Clipper. He was one of the smoothest, hardest playing baseball players of an era, arguably one of the greatest of all time. To another generation of Americans, he was Marilyn Monroe's husband.
Yes.
And, that whole story. But then for a generation or two, or maybe three, over like a course of 20 plus years, he was the pitchman for Mr. Coffee.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's entire generation of kids that at that time had no idea that he had this legendary baseball career. He was just this gentle, nice looking older man that was talking about Mr. Coffee. And of course, we're talking about Joe DiMaggio. But it's hard to fathom, but it's true that there were just a number of people that had no idea that he was something besides the guy that sold you Mr. Coffee on TV. So arguably his fame translated over like 7 or 8 decades. So congratulations, Mr. DiMaggio. You did well for yourself. And I understand Taylor Swift is watching tonight. Let's see if she approves. Yeah. Looks like she's pretty happy with the show so far. So good. Just had to drop in and check out on what was going on with Taylor. So
all right. Well, as far as I can see, I was going to say your video's off, and maybe that's a good thing. But
all right, is that everybody in 3 then, or 2? No,
2. I think 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think Weber.
Yeah, I still got one.
I'm being yelled at by my producer from the other room that Webby didn't go.
That's right. Damn it. So we were choosing this topic the other night, and these guys were making fun of me because I said, hey, there's this new movie coming out about the baseball player who was a spy. And they all looked at me and they go, that movie was 10 years ago. It's called The Catcher Was a Spy, and stars Paul Rudd, and he plays baseball player Mo Berg, or Morris Berg, who was a longtime catcher in the major leagues, but is better known for being an American spy. So I'll read you a little bit about Mo. Casey Stengel called him the brainiest guy in baseball, and the strangest man to ever play baseball. He wasn't an exceptionally good player, but he was very smart, could have been a great manager or coach, a very good tactician. And unbeknownst to a lot of his playing partners, he was a spy. He was working for the United States government. He traveled to Yugoslavia to gather intelligence on resistance groups, which the US government was considering supporting. So he's trying to determine if these were good folks or bad folks for the government to get into bed with. He did that for many years. But when we go back to talk about how brainy he was, this was a little bit before our time, but there was a game show, a radio quiz show called Information Please. And Mo was a contestant on this show. And he successfully answered questions about the etymology of words and the names from Greek and Latin historical events in Europe. Blew away the competitors on the show. I think it was one of those instances like you see on Jeopardy where one guy has all the points and the other two are just staring at him. So that is Mo Berg. And I think the reason I brought up the fact that the movie was new, Robbie, you said that it's new to Netflix, right?
Right.
Okay. And it's called The Catcher Was a Spy. So check
Right.
that one out. All right.
You know, he was moments away from an assassination attempt on Hitler at one point.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the story's incredible. The books,
And
the movies okay. The book is incredible. It's completely
the
engrossing.
book goes into a lot more detail.
Yep.
He was, my understanding was that they first got the idea to use him as a spy after he was taking a bunch of pictures in Japan while on one of those all-star tours. And they were like, you can't be doing this. You can't be taking pictures. And he was able to talk him into keeping his camera. So they was like, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting point to put in our back pocket and use later.
Hey, and we got a comment on Jeff's euchre pick.
And Bob Uecker had 100 appearances on the Johnny Carson show.
and 95 suits that were god awful.
All right. Is that the end of round two?
That's the end of round two.
Well, what time is it, Rob?
Well, I mean, I guess we have to do it. So, you know.
You guys are going to sing me happy birthday? Is that
what? That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to turn it over to Rob Weber, who's going to tell you more about the Mic'd Up app. And let me see. Is Taylor still with us? Yeah, okay. You're still
all
good
right.
on that
All right.
one.
She's really excited. That's good. It's good.
She's saying, I'll drink to that. So go ahead, Rob.
All right.
Tell us about Mic'd Up.
Okay. So Mic'd Up is the app you are watching this show on, hopefully. And down at the bottom of the screen is a microphone. And that is the way you can leave us a comment. You can leave the comment anytime after the show is posted on the platform, or you can leave it live during the show, as many of you folks are doing as we speak. We want to hear from you. That's what makes the whole show fun, is to hear what things we might have missed, or if you agree with our opinions about the topic we're having each week. We'll probably stay with the top five topic most of the time, but we have branched out from time to time. So if you want to see what our show is up to next week, take a look in the upcoming column within the app. You can see all the upcoming shows, and then you can see any of our previous 32 shows in the archive. There are some other shows on the app that are active right now. Our friends from Yankees Coast to Coast. Oh, okay.
I was setting up the Jeopardy theme for your clock here.
Oh, sorry. Adam Schneider and Mike Miller are Yankees Coast to Coast. They have guests on each week. Adam's on the East Coast, Mike's on the West Coast, and they have a different topic. Each week, Thursday nights at 4 p.m. Pacific is their usual show time. And tomorrow night, they will be talking about the best and worst free agent signings in Yankees history. I guess Catfish Hunter. Yeah, Catfish Hunter would have been one of the first. Garrett Cole would have been one of the last. But I would love to hear what people think about the signings that have been made over the years. The Jim Darby Show is every other Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. Jim is a longtime Easton and Mizuno executive. He is also affiliated with Cal and Cal Baseball. He's an announcer for the team. And Jim has years of experience in the sports world and has different fun topics to talk about in his half-hour show. Next Wednesday at 4:00, Jim will be talking about the history of the Pac-12 and what has become of that sports conference. So I know Jim's not happy with what happened, but it'll be interesting for him to talk a little bit about the politics and what's going on there. The Rick Barry Show appears periodically. Rick and his co-host Cyrus will cover the NBA, the Warriors, college basketball, the ABA, and any other topics you want to talk about. Rick's very opinionated, and he takes all the questions and comments that come in. So look for an announcement about the Rick Barry Show coming up probably next week. And then finally, we have the Hall of Fame Conversations Show hosted by John Rieger and Barry Smith. John and Barry interview members of the Florida Sports Hall of Fame, and they just had on former pro golfer and announcer Gary Koch last week, who joined the Florida Sports Hall of Fame in 2012. Very informative shows, the different guests every time, and there's some great people like Wade Boggs and Fred Bolitnikoff who have been on there. So those are the active shows. There's other shows coming up from time to time. If you want to follow a show, look for it in the upcoming column and star the host. There'll be a heart sign next to one of the hosts. Just star them, and every time that host does something, you'll be notified through the app. That's what I got. Rob?
Oh, you got it in just before
Yeah.
the buzzer ran out on you. Nice work. Wow, that was close.
He's good. He's good.
That was good. That's good. Yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to the prestigious round one.
I think Weber was last time. Does he pick?
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to pick Jeff because Jeff gets angry when people take his. So
Yeah.
So I only have one left on my list, and I'm not going to take it because I have a feeling he's at least two of yours number ones. I think he's on everybody's list, so I'm not going to take it. But I thought of one while we were discussing because his name was brought up. And this is kind of a cheat. He's not really more known for this other thing. He's more known for baseball, but I think it's a funny story. And it's how much of a coincidence it was that there was a cartoon character that had a very similar name as a baseball player, to the point where there was almost a lawsuit about it, but he decided, nah, forget it, never mind. The cartoon character was Yogi Bear. And it's very coincidental that there was a baseball player at that time named Yogi Berra. And there's a great documentary right now on Netflix about Yogi Berra, which is so good.
Yeah,
so good. I recommend it very highly. But that's brought up, and there are a lot of kids that grew up with Yogi Berra that didn't know who Yogi Berra was. So I'm going to go with Yogi as my number one.
Yeah.
And since I didn't take it, I'm going to throw it to Robbie to see if he does.
I'm going to shock you, and I don't know who you're thinking of, but it ain't what I got.
Oh,
and nothing with computer and tennis shoes.
No, and mine yeah, absolutely. No, I thought
Oh.
about that one, and I thought,
Oh.
well, no, everybody else will do it, and
Why
they'll
the hell
probably
did I
get
leave
ahead
it
of
on the
me.
board then?
Oh,
I got, yeah, it's still
back
out
up
there.
rewind
Hold
the
on.
tape. Rewind the tape. Come on.
Taylor's with me. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, no, I got a whole different one. This is and this is unique. I know this isn't on anybody else's list. It's sort of a two-parter. Jim Landis was considered one of the greatest center fielders of all time. He, a lot of people will tell you he was every bit as good in center field as Willie Mays. He's on the White Sox all-time, all-century team as the starting center fielder. Several Gold Gloves, great player, fast, good line drive hitter. He played for a long time. At the end of his career, he was I think he lived in the East Bay, grew up in the East Bay. At the end of his career, he moved to Napa and with some other guys started a safety sign company and became a multimillionaire for inventing the orange safety signs that you see on the roadways. So that's pretty significant, like, right, and that's a pretty good story right to there. However, he had a son, Craig, and during all of that time he was making all the money. He also coached in the Babe Ruth leagues here in town, so we actually, as kids, all got to meet and talk to Jim Landis and get autograph cards and things like that. So that was always cool. He's a very affable gentleman. Um, his son, Craig, was a two-sport star in high school here in Napa, was drafted by the Giants and made it all the way to AAA. He had kind of set a deadline for himself. With the Giants, if he didn't get up to the big club in like 5 years, he was going to leave and go back to school. Well, he was still such a highly sought after football player that he actually left and retired from baseball, left the Giants, and went to Stanford on a football scholarship, where he played defensive back for Stanford under, I think Jack Elway was still the coach then. So he played several years there, did the whole thing, graduated, got a degree in economics, spent a little bit of time on Wall Street, and then Craig went on to become an agent, and he specialized in baseball players. He covered Randy Wynn, J.J. Hardy, Ryan Dempster. He was known as a sports agent that people liked working with, the teams liked, the players really liked. He was always about getting guys into the situations they wanted to be in, and the money wasn't always the number one factor. His most notable client would be Mike Trout, who he actually dropped all of his other clients, and now he is Mike Trout's full-time agent exclusively. So it's kind of a cool little story. The dad was very successful in baseball and then built $1 million company, and then his son becomes a legendary sports agent. So I kind of
excellent.
like it. And yeah. And they're, live just down the street. So yeah, so that's my number one, not the one you were thinking of. All right.
All right.
You're,
See,
who do
I
we
left
go
you
to?
speechless.
Mhm.
Go,
Yeah,
Marty,
we're speechless.
go.
All right. Well, I'll take him. All right.
Oh,
Not because we mentioned who he was before, and everybody jump in with their stories because Kurt Russell's history in baseball is something. Consider his father even played ball. When Kurt Russell was with Disney when he was a kid making the movies, it was part of his contract that he would take. When the shooting was over, he would get in a helicopter and go over to the baseball field so we can play youth baseball. He signed with the Angels after high school. And again, getting back to my theme for the night, great names of minor league ballparks. He played for the Oregon Bend Rainbows and the Walla Walla Islanders, where he had a 375 batting average. This was a good ball player until injury, a rotator cuff injury shorted his baseball career. But I think he's made a few movies since then. I don't know. They're just some of them are just off the top of my head. The one that sticks is the computer wears tennis shoes, of course.
why
But
wouldn't it? Why
yeah,
wouldn't it?
but because I'm going to put them into it. A personal story because I ran into Kurt Russell once. He was going. I was going this way, and he was going that way. But and I had to pick him up, dust him off, and it took 2 years. Took 2 years to settle that lawsuit too. But years ago at the Sonoma Mission Inn, this is the truth. This is the truth part of the story. 2 years ago at the Sonoma Mission Inn, I was invited to a wedding of a family friend, and I was asked to stand up for the groom. And they just it was a small wedding, so they are literally on this patio overseeing the tennis courts at the Sonoma Mission Inn, and it was about 30, 35 people. But we kept noticing that, and probably because I was on the side where the rail was, so that people weren't looking at me; they were looking at something else. So who could blame them, right? But you realize after the wedding was over, they realized why people were looking over the railing down at the tennis court. He was playing. Kurt Russell was down there playing tennis with Goldie Hawn. So that was more entertaining than the wedding itself, which was a hard time getting the bride to buy into that years later, as you might expect. But yeah, and I wonder why I was never invited back. But anyway, Kurt Russell stories. Go for it. Whoa, go for it, guys. Thank you.
So for the
Tip your waitresses.
uninitiated, when we were doing these Zoom calls for the last 4 years, there wasn't one that ever came up that Robbie didn't bring up the computer wore tennis shoes.
Tennis shoes.
For some way, shape, or how he managed to squeeze it in somewhere as the greatest movie ever made.
It is a cinematic experience that is unparalleled in today's modern
That's
society.
right. Had to have a wastebasket next to me while I was watching it.
Hey, it may be the greatest movie with Kurt Russell and Cesar Romero in together ever made.
Don't forget Joe Flynn.
Oh yeah, that's right. Marty's seen it more than once.
Weber, what's your Kurt Russell story?
So did we talk about the movie, The Battered Bastards of Baseball?
Go ahead. That's the name.
So for folks that want to know a little bit more about Kurt Russell and baseball, that is a great movie to watch. It's about an hour and 15 minutes. I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Kurt's dad was an actor by the name of Bing Russell, who played the sheriff on the old Bonanza series. And he was a huge baseball fan and decided he wanted to own his own team. So he bought a minor league team up in the Portland area and didn't like the rules of professional baseball. So he created some of his own. And he played in a league where it was mostly younger kids, single A baseball, but he created a hodgepodge team of never was and weren't gonna be's that played together and did pretty well and embarrassed Major League Baseball. Kurt Russell was on that team.
Yeah,
he played. This was after his injury, and he played mostly kind of like designated hitter to try to use his bat in the lineup. Didn't have much power, but hit pretty well. So it was good to see Bing interrupt the world of professional baseball there for a while. But great movie. Take a look for it. Battered Bastards of Baseball.
So let me bring this full circle before you do your number one. Bing Russell was on an episode playing an escaped prisoner who gets the shit kicked out of him, gets captured and everything by Chuck Connors, the rifleman. True story. Look it up. It's an episode called 7.
Was Cesar Romero in that too?
Oh, brother.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'll give you my number one, and it's also an actor / baseball player. My mom's favorite baseball team was the 1948 world champion Cleveland Indians. And on that team was a utility infielder, played all 4 infield positions, but mostly up the middle. Not a very good player, but he got himself a World Series ring, and he played for the Cleveland Indians, Pittsburgh Pirates, and St. Louis Browns during a short major league career. Johnny Barandino. Most people know him as a longtime actor on General Hospital. I mean, for decades. And then he was on another soap opera, I believe at the same time, called Young Doctors in Love from 1982.
Wait, so he played in the 40s, and then in the 80s, he's on Young Doctors,
Doctors
in
in
Love.
Yes.
Yes. He was on several episodes of The Adventures of Superman with George Reeve. He plays a bad guy. That was in the 50s, right after baseball. But his first acting role was actually before he got into baseball. He was on an episode of The Untouchables, and he plays a thug that Elliot Ness has to, root out and arrest. But an incredible acting career, and he is to this day. I don't believe anybody else can claim this. He's the only person who has a World Series ring and a star on the Walk of Fame.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep. So Johnny Barandino is my number 1.
Johnny Barandino.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Hey, we got a lot of comments tonight, and I'm sure we
Great.
have some honorable mentions too, but we should get to the comments first. So who can run those?
You want me to,
All right.
Robbie?
I can do that.
All right.
We have an M. Miller.
Who? Oops. We did.
Okay, so I'm going to follow the rules today, and I'm going to give
That's
you
a
5
first.
baseball players who are famous for other things. Chuck Connor, the rifleman, Jim Bunning, a senator, Rusty Staub for his restaurant in New York,
Oh, yeah.
2 that are the same in Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, and finally, from the Milwaukee Brewers, country singer Charlie Pride.
He's on the same page with us. Let's see what Big Juicy's got. He's got more than one. That's what he's got.
Number 5, let's start off with Coach Prime, Deion Sanders of the Colorado Buffaloes, 14 years in the National Football League and 9 seasons in MLB. Number 4, Ken Griffey Jr., as a sports photographer now for ESPN, taking pictures of his son, among others. Number 3, USC alumnus John Barandino as Dr. Hardy in General Hospital.
All right. Big Juicy's adding some detail to my my number 5 guy.
My number 2 pick is Raul Mondesi. Got into politics after baseball, now doing time in prison for corruption as mayor of San Cristobal in the Dominican Republic. And my number 1 is Ken McMillan. Brought up by the Dodgers, had 19 years in the MLB, but his other career, if you want to call it that, was on the back of his baseball card. It shows him holding a gas nozzle. He was a gas station attendant even when he was playing in the majors.
And probably some guy that Marty knows.
Or he lives down the street from you in Napa. One of the 2.
Yes. Here's one of our regulars, Ezra von Mermelschwanz.
Hey guys, Ezra von Mermelschwanz from Yankees Coast to Coast. So we've got Yogi Berra, known for Yoo-Hoo, Phil Rizzuto for The Money Store and Meatloaf songs, Joe DiMaggio for Mr. Coffee, Bo Jackson for playing football way better than he played baseball, and that pain in the tush, George Brett, known for hemorrhoids. Breaking the rules again, OJ,
Good
that
call.
Tyler Puss Simpson, known for murder.
Yeah, well, I think we got to do a George Brett night and cover the story that you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
At some point or another. Trust me, this is what we call in the business a teaser. There is an incredible George Brett story that we will share at some point. But at the moment, let's go to see what JC has to say.
JC here. John Wayne once said, "Well, Pilgrim, I'm going to wrestle me a bear and kiss me a pretty woman and hope I don't screw it up again." What you drinking? Porch Light Lager. Because, like a moth to a light, I'm drawn to this beer.
You got it right.
And he put emphasis on it too.
All right, now JC's got his list.
JC Top 5. Number 5, Trevor Bauer. Better known not as a pitcher, but a sexual assaulter. Number 4, Bob Euchre, catcher, better known as a broadcaster and an actor, Harry Doyle, in the movie Major Leagues. Number 3, Deion Sanders, better known as a football player than a baseball player. And number...
Oh.
I know, that also known as a teaser.
JC, continuing, number 2 would be Joe DiMaggio, MVP, hit streak and all, still probably better known as married to Marilyn Monroe, and as Mr. Coffee to some of the slightly younger set. Number 1, Mo Berg. The catcher was a spy, White Sox catcher, and successful member of the OSS in World War II.
Good picks. Good picks.
Good. Yep. Yep.
All right. On the Schneid is here.
This is Adam Schneider from Yankees Coast to Coast, long-time caller, first-time listener. Chuck Connors, you may have talked about this already. He was a Dodger and a member of the Boston Celtics.
Yep.
Man, that Snyder guy, just there's something about him.
Sounds-
Can't quite put my finger on it. but-
He sounds just like J.C. Penney.
All right. So one of our regular listeners texted me, still under the weather, so didn't want to leave a recording. But Vonnie checks in. Her number 5 is Steve Garvey. She put him down as shady politician / fucking Dodger. Number 4, Barry Zito, singer, recording artist, and also appeared on The Masked Singer. Number 3, Tim Flannery, guitarist and singer with a band called the Lunatic Fringe. She had Kurt Russell, number 2, and Chuck Connors as well, actor and Celtic and Dodger. So there you go. That's her top 5.
Nice.
Cool.
A good
Honorable
broad
mentions, anybody?
list.
Yeah. A quote, "Sir, you are the greatest athlete in the world." King Gustav of Sweden to Jim Thorpe.
Nice.
Not only
Good pull.
an Olympian, 2-time gold medalist, but played baseball and football. And I brought this up just for a little. Pop Warner was his coach in Sweden, and on the second day of his competing in the Olympics, he lost Thorpe lost his shoes, and Pop Warner had to just scrounge up a pair of shoes for him to use, and he went on to set Olympic records in both the heptathlon and the decathlon on scrounged shoes.
Wow.
I thought that was a little trivial moment, but wow, the greatest athlete, maybe one of the greatest athletes of all time, Jim Thorpe.
Mhm.
And forever giant in baseball.
Yes, he was a giant.
I got one. I'm kind of surprised that On the Schneid or Ezra didn't give us this one. Longtime outfielder for the Yankees, Bernie Williams.
Oh yeah, oh yes.
He's
Constantino.
considered to be in the 1% of what they would call jazz guitarists in the world, meaning he's just a tremendous talent. And even some of those that are making money doing that say they wish they had his chops as a guitar player.
Yeah,
So,
he's won a couple of Grammys. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
very good.
mhm. Yeah.
I thought Jeff might go with Jackie Robinson as a civil rights activist.
Yeah, I could have. I get it. I get that. Yeah.
And then I had Danny Ainge, who played for the Blue Jays before going to the Celtics. So, and got some major league time. Um, and then I had an interesting one that didn't really count, but it sort of counted, I guess. He apparently was a very good baseball player in high school and was offered a full ride scholarship to Marshall University to play baseball. Billy Crystal.
Oh, from,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
Mar- from Marshall University. Okay,
From
okay.
Marshall, yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
that's kind of a big deal. So that's what I had kind of lying around.
I've got some more war heroes, of course.
Ted Williams.
We all know about Ted Williams, but
Right.
here's some others that you may not have known about. Yankee outfielder Hank Bauer.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Do I have that right? Yeah, it's
Bauer or Sour?
Hank Bauer.
Okay.
Hank Bauer has 2 Purple Hearts for wounds received in combat.
Yeah, because he wasn't very fast.
He has the
Jesus.
Bronze Star twice for heroism as a platoon sergeant in the Pacific during World War II. Bob Feller,
Yep.
Hall of
I was
Famer
gonna.
Bob
Yeah, I was gonna
Feller.
say Bob Feller was be in
Yep.
there.
He enlisted in the Navy the day after the Pearl Harbor attacks, and was awarded 10 battle stars for his service on board the USS Alabama, serving primarily as the mount captain for anti-aircrafts mounts. And then there was a Boston Red Sox pitcher that I'm not familiar with. His name was Earl Johnson. He received battlefield commissions for combat during World War II in Europe. He's got the Silver Star and the Bronze Star. So
Wow.
very cool stuff. So
Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of those old, World War II guys that were just did things that are unimaginable to most people.
Yeah.
Especially today. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Well,
Any others?
I'm
okay, I
out.
can see by your
Okay.
stunned silence, no.
Probably the smartest thing we said all night.
I
Yeah.
think so. So I guess that wraps up another episode. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Thank you to our friends at Mic'd Up for hosting us and keeping us alive during this critical time in our lives.
Tolerating us.
Thank you to Almanac Brewing for sponsoring us and putting up with our shenanigans as we talk about their beers. We do certainly enjoy them, and we do hope you go by it and visit the brewery whenever you can. And thanks to you, Mooks. That was a fun show. Happy birthday, Rob.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Rob. Safe travels.
All right. We'll see you all next week with some other really lame, stupid list that will stretch out for an hour.
Hey,